Hey folks, welcome back to the farm and the barn. As promised, we're going to bring you around for the processing of these hogs. We're not going to show you all of it, but we'll show you what we got going on, so stick around. As you can see, we have no hogs hanging behind us. That's because yesterday we broke them down and we boned them out and we ground them for ground pork. And we have a video of us breaking down hogs, so we'll spare you that. It's pretty simple. The only thing we did different is we didn't cut up a bunch of different cuts of meat. We just boned it out and ground it all up. We ended up with 550 pounds of ground pork. And then we also cut a few chops for some of the helpers that were on the video the other day that you saw. Sawyer's going to pay them with some pork. So that's what they're going to get there. So we'll show you all of our ground pork. We've got these 2 ice chests full of ground pork in 10-pound bags. There's 420 pounds just right here in the ice chest. And then I have another 80 pounds in our refrigerator in the house. Now yesterday, all of the organs that we saved, I ran them through the grinder as well. And then Kelly currently has those in the freeze dryer. She didn't have to cook them or anything like that because the freeze drying process kills everything in it. Plus it comes out a dry product. And Kelly uses that for dog treats. And she'll also powder it up and sprinkle it over the dog's food when she gives the dogs food at night. Now I have another process going over here with the heads that I'll show you. So we had 9 heads here in the pot. What I did was I skinned all the heads, took all the skin off of them, and then I cut them in half lengthwise with the bandsaw. And then we had them all in this pot with water boiling all day yesterday. And then we just turned it off and let it cool overnight. And then this morning I came out and picked all the bone fragments out of this meat. And you can see this meat was probably, once I pulled the bones out, probably about this far, a little over halfway above the pot here. And it looked like just a whole bunch of pulled pork, really. It's human grade, actually. If you wanted to eat this, you could, because it's completely fine. It was cooked well over 140 degrees, but it's got eyeballs and everything else in it. So we're just leaving it for the dogs. You can see I've already got 3 full pans of it down here, another one here. And we're going to keep panning this stuff up because all of the connective tissue and everything that's on the head, when it breaks down, it turns into like a gelatin. And it'll hold all this meat mixture together. And then we'll leave it out here in the cold barn because it's as cold as the refrigerator out here in the winter, sometimes the freezer. And it will solidify and get hard. And then once the organ meat is out of the freeze dryer, we'll get the freeze dryer trays, which are the exact same size as these. All we got to do is dump these over into the freeze dryer trays and throw it right in the freeze dryer. Now I could freeze this, I could put it in baggies and freeze it for the dogs, but there's absolutely no room in our freezer, which I've told you before. So we are going to elect to freeze dry this, and then it will actually last a lot longer anyway. Each tray takes a full pot of meat. I think we're going to end up with about 6 or 7 trays. The dogs have already had a taste of this. They were chomping this stuff down, licking their lips when they were done. They were loving it. Like pulled pork for pups. Stuff's already starting to come together, but it's still spreadable, so it's nice. Had to come out this morning and get on it before it got too cold and turned into a giant brick down there. But all I would have had to do is turn the fire back on underneath that pot and loosen it back up. So it wouldn't have been a big deal, but easier to get it done instead of going through extra steps. There we go. one more full tray. It's nice having the same size trays, that way I know it's going to fit in the freeze dryer. Well, we got 7 full trays of our puppy pulled pork there, plus a little bag we can keep in the fridge for them for the next day or so. Got to dispose of all these bones and clean this pot, which isn't going to be as hard as normal because we have hot water out here. This is a little under the counter hot water heater that the previous owner had put in our bathroom. And when we remodeled the bathroom, we removed it because we're okay with the amount of time it takes the hot water to get to the sink. It's fine. They wanted instant hot water. So I rigged this out to hook up to hoses so we could use it out here in the meat processing area, because it's always nice to have hot water to cut through the grease and stuff when you're working with the meat. We used the heck out of that hot water yesterday. That was fantastic to have out here. All right, we got our pan scrubbed out. We're going to leave our puppy pulled pork back there, and it's going to be plenty cold out here. We're going to take some dishes in, and we've got to measure some spices for tomorrow. We're going to mix up a bunch of sausage tomorrow, all this stuff here. So we're going to start mixing up spices. We're going to mix them up in 20-pound batches because that's kind of what we want to deal with at a time. So in our recipe, we have rosemary, sage, thyme, nutmeg, crushed red pepper, black pepper, kosher salt, and brown sugar. You can see the recipe right here for our breakfast sausage if you want to screenshot it or that, whatever, for 1 pound, 5 pound, 10 pound, or 20 pound batches. Now some of the other recipes we use, you got the Italian sausage there on the top, and then the chorizo below that, and then our German sausage down here on the bottom. That one you need beef to mix with there. Got a chair here at the counter. We're going to put them all in sandwich bags, so there'll be 20 pounds per sandwich bag. We're going to get all this measured up because I have these to use. And then I'm going to call Sawyer and tell him what more he needs to finish out all of that 420 pounds of ground pork. For the ground pork that we have downstairs, we're going to make linguiça out of that, a Portuguese sausage. We've done that for you here on the channel. The recipe is in the playlist. So we're going to get started on this. So there's our spice mix for 20 pounds of pork sausage to make it into breakfast sausage. You can mix it up, but it's going to be thoroughly mixed up when we pour it in the meat. But probably doesn't hurt to mix it well here. And then when we go to mix it into the sausage, this goes into a quart of water, or 4 cups of water for that recipe. The water does 2 things. The water helps distribute the spices better so you don't get spicy little pockets in your meat. And the water also helps it go through a stuffer if you're going to stuff this. So we're going to continue making as many of these as we can. And then we'll figure out how much more of each spice we need, and we'll let Sawyer know while he's in the big town today how much he's got to buy. Well, we had enough spices to make packages for 180 pounds of pork breakfast sausage. So I'll let Sawyer know how much more he needs to bring. I guess he also wants to make 100 pounds of Italian sausage, and that recipe's on that page I showed you. So we'll be making that as well. All right, folks. I'm ready to stuff our linguiça sausage that we're making, and I'll show you a couple tricks when you're working with sausage casings, when you're stuffing a sausage, that'll really save you a lot of headaches. So your casings are going to come in bulk in a bag in salt, in what's called a hank. They'll be all tied together, and the package that I bought does about 100 pounds of sausage, and they will come all tied to this ring right here, tied around it in a big loop. So you got to untie that first, which we've already done. We've got one casing that's still through the ring. We're just going to pull it out of the ring. So we've already rinsed the salt on the outside of these casings, so you don't have to do that now. We've already got that done. So we'll pull this out, and then there's the end there. So always have a little water in your bowl. If there's water in these will stay nice and loose. And you want to find the end of one casing and pull one casing at a time. Don't try to pull them all apart because they get all knotted up. But if they're in water, they stay nice and loose. So we've got the end here. I've got another bowl of clean water down here. I just pull this casing out of the bowl, stringing it into the other bowl. You don't want the bowls full because then the casing goes over the top and goes down into the sink, into the drain. You don't want to do that. So it should pull out fairly easy. And if it does get knotted up, just go down there and swish the water around a little bit. Usually it'll loosen up. But this one came right out. So now we need to rinse it. So I just keep my water on kind of a low stream there outside the bowl because I don't want it going into my bowl. Sometimes the hardest part is finding the opening of your casing. It can be a challenge sometimes, but sometimes I get lucky. We'll see if we get lucky this time. You just got to kind of dig around right on the end until you find it. Find out which side it opens up to, and I think we just did right there. So I put that under that little stream of water, and we start getting some water in the casing. I fill it to where there's about a foot of water into that casing down there in a bowl. And what we're doing is we're rinsing our casings out, rinsing the insides. So now that we have about a foot of water in there, in that casing, we just pull this out. Now I'm putting it in this other bowl over here, and I'm alternating. As I get done, I lay them over the bowl, one right after the other. So I always know which casing's on top in here, because if you try to pull from the bottom, it might get knotted up. So when I start stuffing sausage and I go to put this on the stuffer, I'll start with the furthest one over here, which I know will be on top of this bowl. And just like stuffing like a rope bag, if you've ever done any rappelling or anything like that and you've dealt with rope bags, you can stuff the rope in that bag and it'll all come out the same way it went in. If you try to put it in coils or whatever and you try to pull it loose, it inevitably gets knotted up. There's the end of our casing. We put it right next to that other one like that. And then we start on our next casing. All of our casings are in the bowl. We know if we start here and go clockwise, we're always pulling the casing that's on top. We've got our stainless steel pan here and our stuffer all set up, ready to go. We've got about 10 casings, so we know each one will do about 10 pounds, which is going to work out great because our meat is in 10-pound packages. Now these are natural hog casings, and yes, if we wanted to spend the time, we could have harvested our own casings from those hogs, but it's a very tedious job, and I think I'm way ahead just by ordering them. I get them from a place called Walton's in Kansas, and these are the best casings I've ever found. They're nice and tough, and they're super, super long, so you don't have to change and stuff the tube all the time. So we'll wait for those to finish soaking, and then we'll get started. Okay, we got our first 10 pounds in here in the can, and now we're putting our first casing on here. Hoping I can get a whole one on here, that way this will go pretty fast. I can just do a casing for each can, make it pretty easy. All right, we got all that sausage stuffed. We went to a basketball game tonight, and now it's cool enough outside. It's like refrigerator temp outside. So we're going to take all the sausage out, put it in the barbecue so it's ready to be smoked tomorrow, and it'll dry out, as we don't want it wet like it is now. When it dries, it'll stick. That smoke will stick to it a lot better. So let's go load it up. Well, folks, I severely misjudged how much space I had to smoke. This is our big trailer barbecue we built. If you remember, I was only able to get 30 pounds in here, and that's not even half. I had to put 10 pounds over in the barbecue in the Benzebo. Crazy. We're going to have to do this in 2 different cooks. Here's another 10 pounds over here. So we're going to let this go nighty-night, and we will be back out here in the morning putting smoke on this stuff. Okay, we're getting the fire rolling this morning. It's just above freezing outside. You can see all of our Portuguese sausage in here, our linguiça. We've got a temperature probe in the middle in here so we get kind of an average. Our meat is currently 33 degrees. I've got the door open because when you first start burning a fire, you get a dirty smoke. It's not a good hot, clean smoke. So once we get an established fire in there, we'll go ahead and close the door. Looks like the Masterbuilt's ready to close up and get rolling here. We've got a good smoke going. You can see our meat here is 33 degrees also. And then our barbecue is up to 107, 108 and climbing. This Masterbuilt smoker is going to do the work all on its own. I won't need to mess with this at all. It'll maintain the temp, and all I got to do is just check the temp of the sausage, and I can do that on my phone. Super easy. Love this thing, but it only fits 10 pounds in it. So I've added my fan to my firebox here, so I can dial in exactly the amount of air I want in the firebox. So you can only have so much combustion, and it all depends on the amount of air going in. So that's a good way to regulate it. Smoke is still a little bit dirty, so we'll wait on closing this up until it cleans up. If you've never seen a reverse flow smoker, normally your smoker would have the firebox on one end and the smokestack on the other, and the heat would go across. Problem is you don't get a good even heat. You're hotter on this side usually than you are on this side. So on a reverse flow, you have a channel that goes underneath and then comes up right here, and then the smoke's got to go all the way back across, the smoke and the heat back to the smokestack in the cook chamber. So it gets a lot more even heat in here, and the smoke rolls back over everything. All right, good clean smoke. Time to shut her down. The Masterbuilt over here is coming up to temp first. Everything's looking good. Just got a little bit further to go. We'll be done. So we got the sausage out of the Masterbuilt. We're going to do what's called bloom the sausage, which is going to shower it with cool water. It brings the temperature down quicker and rehydrates the casings a little bit. Now we brought it in the house. I've got it on my cooling rack here. It's going to dry and cool down all the way, and then we can package it up. All right, we got the next batch loaded in here. Going to get it going. The alarm just went off on these sausages, and boys, they are beautiful. I wish I had room to do them all in here because those come out gorgeous, much better than the barbecue did. So we're going to start unloading these, blooming these, and we'll reload this. It's going to take a while. Sausages are all cooled off now. Kelly's packaging them up. We're doing a vacuum seal on them so they last a good long time. All right, we got all our linguiça here in the fridge, going to cool down all the way. And then my buddy's got some freezer space. We're going to put that in there so we give some of this away. And then we'll put some in our freezer for our use. All right, the organ meat is done in the freeze dryer. Kelly puts some cheap bread on top of it just to absorb any smell that it may have, but it doesn't have a lot. What do you do with the bread when you're done?
I'll add some water to it and give it to the chickens.
Oh, chickens will love that. But that's what she looks like right there. We'll show you when she's packaging it up. Alright, now she's going to break up the meat. It's crispy dry. Good doggy treats. Just bagging them up in these bags.
So you see how they like them?
Dogs have their undivided attention down here. They love that stuff. Good for them too. A lot of good vitamins and minerals in that organ meat. Got a couple tubs here to take upstairs for use right away, and then she's putting it in the Mylar bags for long-term storage. Okay, the whole crew's coming tonight. We're going to be seasoning, mixing, and packaging all the bulk breakfast and Italian sausage, so we'll see you then. All right, we are packaging sausage. Derek and Sawyer over here mixing sausage while the chemist master is over here mixing all the recipes. But we're doing 40 pounds at a time. Sawyer's kind of a wuss. He's using the paddle instead of his hands because he's too cold. So we're getting her done. We got 420 pounds of sausage to make tonight. And it's already dark. All right, we got through with the breakfast sausage. Now we're working on the Italian. We're down to the last 3 tubs here. Everything's mixed up, so we just got to bag it up and then we'll be done. Lots of sausage. Well, we're about done with the last tub here. We got about 450 packages, 1-pound packages of good farm-to-table pork. Isn't that right, Sawyer?
Mid-Nebraska raised.
Yep, Nebraska raised. So it's good to be done. It's colder than a mother-in-law's kiss out here, and we're all feeling it because it's about 9:30 at night, too. Hope you enjoyed processing these hogs with us. Had a good time out here, good family time with the matanza, which is again Portuguese for getting together and doing these hogs. So hope you come back and see us real soon here on Mark Ellie Farm. And till then, stay safe, stay healthy. Love you guys. See you real soon.
Thanks for watching.